Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendan Traxler.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? How's it going with you, babe?
Yeah, it's going okay. You?
I'm fine. I was just looking up here on our, yeah, I was just looking at some of the stuff here we're doing. Sorry, a little scatterbrain there. But what's new and exciting in your world? Obviously, Adam is not here again this evening. I was just talking to him right before we got on here, and he is still working on his project. So who knows if he'll ever come back? But no, he's busy. Actually, he won't care.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, how's it going? Brian says, "Happy Tuesday." Happy Tuesday to you as well. Happy good week, especially for the American people. It was Labor Day yesterday, so hope you all had a good and safe Labor Day weekend. But I was saying with Adam that he's working on renovating a church into a house that his father-in-law bought. So he's been doing that after work almost every day. So he's taking up a lot of time, but he's been focusing on that. So that's where he's been. What about you, babe? I cut you off there a little bit.
Oh, I don't know, but
Okay.
over the weekend while I
Yes.
was working on stuff at the house that we talked about earlier, I was at a major hardware store, and they had the Halloween decorations already out. And if you haven't seen it, the 6-foot deep sea diver,
Yes.
it's like animatronic and
I've only seen pictures of it. I haven't seen it yet.
yeah, it's actually impressive in person. It's like if I had money just to throw away, I'd buy it.
Yeah. How much was it?
$300 some dollars, like 330 or something like that. Yeah, it was painful.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay. But now if they make it waterproof so you could put it underwater
That'd be
and
cool.
like have your own haunted coral reef, that'd be awesome.
I saw it was like a 7 or 8 foot tall Batman at Home Depot, inflatable one.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
Oh, inflatable.
it was huge. It was like no,
Yeah.
no, I'm not doing that. But anyway, you know what? This is just you and me. Let's just cut to the chase and hop right into what we're talking about tonight. You and me are going to be meeting Thursday night, and hopefully Adam as well, if he can make it happen and talk about some stuff. But tonight we're going to talk a little bit about coral reefs, coral restoration, coral, just how underwater habitats and stuff. Answers to some questions, like you were talking beforehand. Some of the problems that we have run into, or not necessarily problems, but concerns that people have rose with us in the past is the fact that, hey, you're dropping a big chunk of metal or concrete and stuff in the ocean, and it's going to be disruptive, and it's going to, damage the environment, or it's going to whatever, and like just stay out of the water. Mankind already does enough damage on land. Why are you going to do the same thing to the ocean? All this type of stuff. And so we're going to try to address some of those questions here tonight as well. But the biggest thing is, and I don't want to come across as, environmentalist because I've never really been an environmentalist, but I think we should care for our oceans and our planet. I think it's just common sense. So let's hop right on into it. I don't even remember what the first slide is. Oh yeah, why should we even care about coral reefs? So here's a couple different places I looked, and some from some coral reef restoration websites. They all had about the same basic thing, talking about how a quarter of all marine species live on coral reefs, and like you were talking, babe, that that makes becomes a sanctuary at that point in time. There can be protection and stuff because of that, but because of all these marine species that get attracted to them and survive around these coral reefs, that also leads into that people, especially in third world countries and stuff like that rely on this food for the livelihood. So coral reefs are teeming with life, but then they're also administering life to humans as well. And then one thing which I don't think people understand as well is because coral reefs are out there, they break up storms. So as they're coming in, a lot of times it creates, especially once you start getting the science of how waves are formed and how storms are formed and stuff along those lines, that coral definitely breaks up that, so it can slow down or diminish the effects of a storm on a coastal area. And then lastly, it just it cleans the water around them, so it is a purification system, and it sucks out all the waste and stuff on those lines, or a big chunk of it, to the waters around. So that's some of the reasons why we just in general should care about coral reefs and what they have to do for our environment and stuff. But let's just see right here. So the lower dots show off where most of the bigger coral reefs in the world. Obviously, you've got Australia, and then over in the Caribbean are the two largest ones. But you've got tons of them there in East Asia area. And so all these areas are running into, not all these areas, but a lot of these areas are running into bleaching issues or issues where they're being damaged either by people, for one thing, because they're usually touristy areas. So humans are damaging them by touching them, walking on them, dumping pollutants into the water, what have you. And so what happens is you get this effect here, where on the left you've got like previously, and then the right is what these coral reefs are becoming. And because of that, they're dying off, which then, if you look back at our previous notes, what a detriment to all life that is with the damage of these. And so it's one of those things where we have said multiple times over and over and over, the importance of underwater habitats and the importance of this is to put people underwater so they can see this, because it's so out of sight and it is so out of mind, because they're like, well, that doesn't affect us. That doesn't mean anything. It's, it's the water. We don't care about that. We have food in the stores. What does it matter? Type of thing. There's some really uneducated thinking about this. And so the more that we can show people and the more we can see this on a day in and day out basis, the more I think we can combat some of this as well. So that's really where the premise of tonight is there's a problem and there's companies out there to work on it and fix it, but then how do underwater habitats play into all that as well? Do you have anything you want to add to that before I get into it, babe?
No, keep going.
Well, okay then. So there are organizations out there, and I spoke with some of them at DEMA. I reached out to a few of them trying to see if we could get an interview for tonight, but I think it was too short notice. I hadn't heard back from them yet, but something I'm still going to try to do, because I think it would be good to have one of them either live or pre-recorded to do some kind of deep down talk to talk about this in general from an area of expertise and knowledge that they may have. But there's coral restoration programs out there that do, as you can see, that basically grow coral from small polyps and stuff along those lines, and are doing the work that nature always did in the past, but are protecting it and helping it along. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I showed a couple different images here on the screen of different platforms that have been set up in the past to do that. Another thing we do, or that people in coral restoration do, and just in general, is you're always hearing about them, sinking a ship or sinking a plane or doing whatever to build man-made coral reefs to help these along. And there's several ways you can do it. As you can see here, this is some structure that over time the coral adheres to. Obviously, the metal is often damaged, so you wouldn't want to use it from a livable standpoint, because it's probably not going to be the best from that. But this is, and we'll come back to this in a bit, but this could be something that could be adhered on the outside of an underwater habitat, as if you had some kind of structure or something along those lines. Alternatively, here's another grid pattern where it's the same thing. Any of these man-made structures, and we've seen that the best things to use are concretes and steels for this. They seem to to be the best as far as holding up over time, as well as the best things for these living organisms to grow onto. And so some companies are out there building different either triangles, or in this picture here, these cube things, and they're dropping them in the ocean in different areas to build. I've seen different geodesic forms and stuff like that. There's been lots of different forms made to try to build our own reefs and to try to help the oceans along. So that's what has been done up to this point in time. So then the question always comes in, he goes, how does this affect ASC? And more importantly, how does it affect anybody else trying to do this as far as underwater habitats go? And obviously we're focused on ASC, so we'll just talk about them and how that affects us. But I think there's multiple different ways, pros and cons. And so we'll just talk about, what people have said, like Babe and we were talking before we hopped on here, the people in comments over the years have said, leave stuff alone, leave better alone. And so is that really a concern? And I think that with anything new, it's an education type of thing you have to go through. You have to educate people about what you're doing and what's going to happen. And at first, we got to be honest about the thing. When you're putting anything foreign into an environment, there's going to be a disruption. But it's what can you do after the fact? And so when I look at underwater habitats, and when I specifically look at ASC and stuff like that, I look at what are we trying to do here? We're trying to not only bring awareness to the ocean around us, but we're trying to lure people to want to come here and to stay here. So it makes absolutely zero sense. And that's why this is such to me, it's not even an argument, because it makes zero sense why we, or as a business, just strictly from a business standpoint, would want to put something in the water and then destroy the area you're wanting to bring people and see. And so like you want to wake up and see this in the morning. This is what you want to roll out of bed. You want to turn over. You want to see the coral. You want to see this life. You don't want to see those bleached coral reefs. You don't want to see just empty sand. That's the reason you would stay underwater. One of the reasons you would stay underwater. So I think if nothing else is said, it is in our best interest as people trying to build underwater habitats to want to make the area around us as pristine and beautiful and teeming with life as possible. Like I said, there will be damage to the water, the area initially. So it's one of those things where maybe we don't build near any reefs. Maybe we build in one of those areas that don't have much life to it, and then we build the reef around us. And that may be the best way to combat that concern until the technology of putting underwater habitats in the water is so routine and it becomes such a not even an issue that we can then put them in closer to reefs and stuff along those lines, into more protected areas. But that is obviously a huge regulation thing and further down the road. But so I'll go over some of the pros and cons that I found from other people while doing some research for this tonight here. But the pros are because the proximity to restoration sites or to coral in general. I'm sorry, that's pro. That's pro. I can't read tonight, obviously. But yes. So because the pro is, that you can have a person watching it 24/7. Right now, with most of those things, sure, you can have ROVs, you can have cameras and stuff like that, but having eyes on is always the best thing. That's why some of these places have teams of volunteers that go out and do this work, to go out there and check in on the product. But if you've got people living there or stationed there for shifts and stuff like that, that's great. And as we're saying, you can create your own reef at the same time on top of whatever you may be doing. So you can implement a bunch of different ways of coral restoration. And I didn't even add this one, but all these things cost money. And so with all these type of things, most of these are done by nonprofits currently. but they still require money. And if there's a way of bringing money in to bring these through, Airbnbs or renting out this place, so hey, you can spend the night here and watch a coral restoration in process, or from a scientific standpoint, there's this money can be thrown into these to greatly make these things escalate how these are coming about. And then we move over to the cons, which we've kind of already discussed, but the environmental disturbance and the physical damage kind of go hand in hand. One is obviously what are you physically damaging, but how does it affect the fish and the plant life and everything around there? And so that's why it's one of those things where we have to be very careful, and that's why one of the things we're trying to get more in touch with different either marine biologists or coral restoration places and stuff like that to be able to pick their brain and to get them to be like, here's what you guys need to do, and here's the best way of handling all that. Lastly is pollution, which I talked about at the top of the show, was people always say, well, look at the streets and stuff along those lines. And I think it's important that as some of the first people to be putting underwater habitats out there open to the public, that we set the standards and we are the stewards on how to properly set the rules and the standard going forward on how you treat the ocean with an underwater habitat. And that it's not all about the money, but it's about the end goal of making a beautiful location where people can come, where people can stay, where people can see the ocean to live or work or whatever the purpose of that underwater habitat may be. Because the way I see it, and I think that most of us see it, is that this isn't just for, you to take a weekend vacation and go stay down there, but this down the road will become more of a workplace and a livelihood. So, and that's, Babe, I'll throw it over to you as far as anything I may have missed as far as different thoughts and questions that may have come up that you might not have thought of.
It ties in.
Yeah.
I'm just going to expand on it. It's just by putting a habitat, either whether you're making your own reef or existing reef. You've got a news story here. I think it was last year and probably a couple of years before too. There's cruise ships dropping anchors on coral reefs and ruining them.
Right.
And then there's your heavy fishing. Industrial type fishing. I don't want to be in a debate about that because I enjoy seafood, but at the same time, there needs to be some protections, some protected areas. So you drop a habitat, a human dwelling place in the middle of that, and that automatically is going to make zones. I mean, because you're going to do it with some kind of zoning or idea of a boundary. And that's what GPS is for, so they can, keep clear of that area. And by doing that, you're making a reef safe area, a fish safe area. And, to me, that is, like I said before, even the people who even hate on the idea have to admit that's at least a wash for trying to protect all that there, as well as getting a dwelling, a habitat for humans there.
Yeah. And that's something I hadn't thought about either is, obviously I've thought about, how do you the concerns of either anchors or debris or whatever coming down, hitting underwater habitat is always going to be a concern, especially in some areas where they don't care and they're going to do whatever they want to do. But a lot of the world, hopefully will adhere to those rules and regulations, especially when human life could be potentially a danger here.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that on their record that, hey, you dropped an anchor and killed a family underwater because they were hanging out in their underwater bungalow type of thing. So yeah, 100% that on top of everything else we said here, that's just another icing on the cake, I guess you could say, as far as the protection levels that will hopefully come with putting manned structures near any type of coral reef, whether it's man-made or if it's already an existing one. I mean, they're protected now, especially the Great Barrier Reef and stuff along those lines. they're protected now, but it's still an issue. And a lot of it isn't even human related. Some of it is, global warming, which we're not going to go down that level either. Is it man-made or not?
If you'll give me a little bit of rain on that,
Yeah.
and the only reason
Go for it.
is where I was just going through some stuff on the different pages. I've just gone through different coral protection, restoration, nursery, whatever you want to call it, pages. And that's one of the things we're actually working on is some of these places have persons studying the genetics to see if there's something they can do to make the coral resistance to that change so it's not dying out like that.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
I think, going off a little segue here, but I think that nature in itself usually finds a way that evolves and it finds a way to survive. So I'm not saying we should be complacent. We shouldn't just be like, oh, well, it's going to take care of itself.
Right.
At the same time, I think that we will be amazed in time that it will find a way to outlast us. So, but again, we can't blame. I say we can't blame it all on humans, but depending on your viewpoint on global warming, I don't think that some of it is just nature in itself, and that's my take on it. But that doesn't mean that we can't, as stewards of the ocean, make it a better place and do better and help this situation out and possibly reverse some of this. And we have seen. I mean, we've already seen great work by some of these coral restoration places, and there are reversing the tides in some areas. But there's a lot of work to be done, and that's a huge ocean, and those reefs are massive. So I mean, it's going to take a whole lot more work than these, dozen or so that are well-known coral restoration places out there can handle and do. So the more eyes we can get in the water, the more structures we can get underwater, the more science we can get under the water as well, I think the better off we're going to be.
Well, I think we've said from the start, I can't rely completely on this, but at the same time, the bigger part of persons that want to be in this environment care.
Yeah.
And that's been something that's said about a lot of scuba divers. There I go, giving the thumbs up all over the screen again. But, that's not all scuba divers, because I've seen plenty of careless ones. Really have. And I have my opinions, but that's not what I'm here for today. But, for the most part, we care. And so having that type-minded people want to stay underwater, then the concern isn't as much as pollution, because they're gonna police themselves when it comes to that. So that helps everyone involved. And then again, that's just a counteract to people saying we're going to ruin it. Well, this isn't your everyday person just going down there. They want to be in that environment. They want to keep it clean. They want to see the scene you said or you showed.
And even for those who don't, because I mean, eventually it will spread out to everyday person who doesn't understand that and doesn't have that appreciation. They just, a lot of it will be just for the likes, be social media people coming down there, and we already see that with Jules, that right now they have people going down there and spend days down there and do a bunch of filming and get, YouTube videos with millions of views and stuff like that. Yeah. And do they honestly care? Or is it just more of just a, hey, I got the views type of thing? And I think that's always going to be a source of our culture from here on out, as long as social media reigns. But that doesn't mean that we can't make safeguards and that we can't help out with better education in the process. And maybe that's something we look at too, is before you even, can come down and say, there's an educational stuff you got to fill out or go through. And in business, I'm all about, I like the word frictionless, about making it as easy and to do whatever is possible, because the customer, I'm going to get off my customer service tangent here, but the customer usually is always right, and that you want to make it as easy and set up those boundaries to make sure that the customer is right. And so what I'm trying to say, I guess, going down a rabbit hole here is that regardless of who comes and stays underwater, at the end of the day, it's our fault if they're not educated and that we haven't put the safeguards and stuff in place to make sure that they're not having, first off, the best time they can have, but that we're not protecting the ocean and the environment around us at the same time. So
the next person can.
Yeah, it all falls on our shoulders to make sure we're doing this right and we're setting these standards and we're setting these boundaries and we're setting this up properly so that not only do underwater habitats thrive and we're able to put hundreds of these things out there, but that the environment around them thrives as well and is better off with an underwater habitat being there than had it not been there. It's my mic drop for the day. Yeah. But yeah, so unless anybody has anything else to add, I don't know.
It's nothing important. You'd be. I mean, if you're a person interested in this stuff, it's easy to find social media or just a web browser.
Yeah, I'll bring up a few. I'll bring up a few of them right now. Go ahead, Bumber. While you're doing that, I'll bring up a few.
One of the things, one of the ones I thought was interesting is she calls herself the Coral Doctor, and she's she works in civil litigation, but at home she grows coral in aquariums at home for different places, whether it's to be starters, out in the wild, or for big aquariums, stuff like that. That's what she does.
Huh.
Thought that was neat. I just had stumbled across her.
Yeah. Hey, John. Thanks for coming here. I don't think we've talked to you before, but appreciate you hopping on here. It looks like there's a couple people. There's just several people watching. It looks like got couple different likes and stuff coming in here. It's not a super busy night tonight. It's a little bit lighter one, but appreciate you being in here and watching us. Yeah.
We stream on different platforms. Let's see. We stream on different platforms too, and I think it's been an issue that not all the platforms show on here that they're watching.
Yeah, so we stream on Facebook, YouTube, and X on here. Then we break them up into little bites and post them out on most of the other social media platforms. But yeah, so I can see who's here. There's only a couple people on YouTube watching right now. But back to the core. So I'll throw some links out here for people who are interested in this and want to look at more. There's coralrestoration.org, which is the one we talked to at DEMA. Really cool people. I think they're one of the ones leading the cause as far as, especially here in the United States. John says that he went diving in South Florida as a conspicuous lack of several types of coral. Yeah, and that's kind of what we're, it's unfortunate that's happening. And what can be done, and unfortunately, there are organizations out there doing this. But then, how do we, as we put underwater habitats in the water, is how do we combat this, and how do we help them along? Can we? Another one here. Let me find this one. This one's an international one. Coral.org. If you need the English, you have to do the /en. I'll throw a couple more links in here for everybody if they want them. And I'll throw one more in here, unless you got, oops. Well, that one didn't post to Facebook. I can see all of it. All right, and there's the last one there for you for now. So yeah, check those places out. Those are all great locations that are doing some great work around the world. Obviously, if you feel so, there's no plug here, but if you like them, I think they're all nonprofits, so they can always use funds and stuff like that too. So you may want to look at that as well. But yeah, you'll have to shoot me the information on that woman you're talking about there, babe.
Okay.
But anyway, unless anybody has anything they want to talk about or share, I think it's going to be a short one for tonight. Are you okay with that, babe?
I am, because tomorrow's my early day.
Yep. So we'll go ahead. If somebody chimes in there, we can always stop. But, hey, as always, the best place to find all of our stuff is at our website, which is atlantisseacolony.com. All of our social media links are on there. Images of proposed habitats that we're working on, information about those, just a little bit of everything. We have a resource page on there that's got, podcast suggestions, book suggestions, YouTube suggestions, all a bunch of stuff if you're interested in the ocean-based stuff. Another great place is our Discord. We've got a good community down there. If I ever get the spammers taken care of, which has been a reoccurring issue, which I think maybe finally got figured out. We'll see. But yeah, that's a great place to come and hang out and ask questions or just talk. We use it more of a think tank type of thing, where people can bounce around ideas and we can just talk more in depth about underwater habitats and the future of underwater. It's not all underwater related. Some of it's floating and stuff along those lines, but primarily we focus on underwater habitats since that's where we're working on. And then something else is, we talked about the nonprofits needing money and stuff along those lines. If you share our heart in what we're doing here, we do have a Patreon. You can definitely hop on there, and for as low as $5 a month, you can help us work towards underwater habitats. That money goes towards multiple different things, whether it's tools to make these live streams possible, or eventually hopefully get some good interviews with some people that might be a little higher price. But we do have quite a few. We have a few patrons, Babe being one of them, but we got Brian, who's in here earlier. I don't know if he's still watching or not. Matthew, Kathy, Martin, Babe, Adam, and then my dad is actually a patron member too. And then I'm not a patron member, but I funnel a lot of money into the business as well. So I guess maybe I should subscribe so my name can be up there. I feel left out. But anyway, let's see what John's got to say. He's like, where do I send my resume? Well, I mean, you can shoot us contact at Atlantis Sea Colony. My email, it's all on our website there. You can shoot there. We're definitely not to a place yet where we're hiring anybody. We're still very early R&D days, and we're working on raising funds to make this a reality. But definitely hop in the Discord if you're on Discord. If not, just hop on any of these social medias that we're on and let's talk, because I'm always looking for like-minded people to help out. So maybe we can do something. I'd love to hear from you. I appreciate the fact that you hopped on here too. And lastly, we have the podcast, which this will be a podcast episode coming out next Tuesday. With Spotify now, you can do video podcasts. So I think I've started doing some video podcasts now as well. So you can listen to it or you can watch it. I did that with the last one we did too. So I don't know, gives you some options there on how you want to do it. But we've got years worth of podcasts going back with multiple different interviews with lots of different people over the years, talking about lots of different things. Joseph Bishop, he was on here earlier, liked the thing, and we did an interview with him years ago. He's engineer, worked with underwater habitats. So yeah, we've got a nice little database there of information for you to go back and listen to. So I definitely encourage people to go over there and check that out as well. Plus, I put out a short little podcast every Monday with just some random thing I'm talking about. Like this last week, it was a plug for tonight. So there is that. Let's see, babe. What do you want to do?
What do I want to do?
Yeah, what do you want to do?
I want to get a habitat for Christmas.
Yeah, me too. You've got a 3D printed one.
Yep, I know.
But yeah,
plans have changed. I was thinking about getting that thing out and painting it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what it turns out to.
Yeah.
Get some like plexiglass and put in there for the windows or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Make it look really sharp. Anyway, all right, guys. Thank you for anybody who came out tonight and is watching this live. If not, when you're watching this later as a VOD, appreciate you guys. We don't say it. It's not one of the things I feel it's kind of cringy sometimes. But if you are watching this, if you would like to subscribe to whatever you're watching this on, like it, all the different algorithm stuff definitely helps us out. It helps us to reach more people, grow the channel. What the way social media works, I think everybody at this point in time, it's been around long enough, knows is once you get enough followers on stuff, you are able to unlock new stuff, and we do more and more things with social media. So every comment, every follow is definitely coveted, and I appreciate it. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, babe, for joining me tonight. We'll talk later.
Thank you.
And
One thing.
Yes.
I just thought of an April Fool's thing.
Okay.
See how many times we can get the thumbs up thing.
What only works for iPhone
episode.
people.
Okay.
So it's not going to work for me. I'm not an iPhone person, so it's not going to work for me. So.
Okay. That's all I got.
But you can do it. You can do it.
Okay.
Let's just tell how many times you can do it. All right, guys. Thank you again. Have a great evening, great rest of your week, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.